Hey everybody, in today's video we're going to be talking about the essential tips and basics of music theory that every beginner musician, songwriter, or any student at the high school level or college level who may be enrolled in a music theory or composition course, these are the things that they're going to need to know to be successful in their respective field. So the first thing we're going to discuss is the construction of the major scale. The C major scale is very much so the most popular scale when it comes to exemplifying different concepts in music because it's all white notes, C to C. So the first note of the C major scale, of course, is C, and we're going to talk about the construction. So when we talk about the construction, we understand that there are whole steps and half steps, and that's how we go through the different scales. The different scales, what makes each scale unique is their combination of whole steps and half steps. So for C, the C major scale or any major scale, the same combination applies no matter which major scale it is. Now, of course, it changes once you start getting into natural minor, harmonic minor, and other minor scales and other modes and different things like that. So for the C major scale, like I said, there are half steps and whole steps. Those are the only two things you have to remember when it comes to the construction of a scale, going up it from root to root. So the first note is, of course, C of the C major scale. It goes up a whole step to D, another whole step to E, a half step to F, a whole step to G, another whole step to a whole step to B, and then lastly a half step up to the C, which is the note you started on. So that is the construction of the major scale. The natural minor scale, it is the exact same set of notes as the major scale. It just depends on what note you start on. Of course, we'll get into that more when we talk about the 7 Gregorian modes of the major scale. So the natural minor scale in the key of C major is A major. The easiest way to figure out the natural minor scale of a major scale, or it's good that you know it as its relative minor. It's related to the parent scale, the parent major scale. So if C major is the parent scale, only thing you need to do is count down 3 notes. So C, B, A, and you start on that note. One more time. You start on C, you go down another note, and then the third note is the note that you start on for your tonic of the natural minor scale. And your tonic, of course, is the root note. That's your tonal center in music. So for the construction of the natural minor scale, which is the exact same set of notes as the major scale, for C major, it's going to be the natural A minor scale. So you're going to start on A, whole step up to B, half step up to C, another whole step to D, whole step to E, half step to F, whole step to G, and then a whole step up to the tonic A. So that right there is the A relative minor, the A natural minor, and which is the relative minor to the parent scale C major. The next thing we're going to talk about is the triads built off each degree of the C major scale. And this structure and the names, of course it changes letter name wise, whether you're on the C major scale or F sharp major scale, but the structure, the quality of the chord is always going to remain the same for the major scale. Of course, that structure is going to change once you start talking about the melodic, harmonic, minor, and other modes that we'll discuss later on. So for the different triads, which a triad is a 3-note chord. So for C major, a C major triad is the 1, 3, 5. That's a triad. Any chord that has 3 notes is known as a triad, which is what most harmony of Western music is built off of, is tertiary harmony. So for the C major scale, you're going to start on the root C major, and you're going to go up a third to E, and then another third to G. For a major triad, it's simply a note, take one note, go up a major third, and then go up a minor third. That's a major third, that's a minor third. Put it together, that is a C major triad. So for all the triads of the C major scale, we'll go through all of them here. I'll try to go a little bit faster. It's going to be a C major triad, then you have a C major sus4 chord, which sus, S-U-S, you'll see abbreviated. It'll be notated like that in music. That stands for a suspension. Because as you can hear, you hear this note, you hear that, and then it sounds very clearly like it should resolve back to the 1. Suspended 4 of C major, and then it resolves back to the C major chord. So you have your C major triad built off the tonic, your C sus4, C sus2, which is just taking the second note of the C major scale instead of the third note. So you take 1, 2, and 5. That's a sus2 chord, or 1, 4, 5 is a sus4 chord. So your C major triad, your sus4 chord, your sus2 chord. And those are all the triads built off the root C in the C major scale. So for the D, the note D in the C major scale, it is a minor scale. It is a minor triad. So the different triads built off the second degree is going to be D minor, D sus4, D sus2, and then of course just D minor again. Those are the 3 triads built off the second scale degree. And then E, you have E minor triad, E sus4, and then this one right here, you can think of this one as E Phrygian. You may not know what the Phrygian mode is, which is what gives this triad its name. But the Phrygian mode, we'll discuss that in a second. The Phrygian mode has a flat 2 in it. As we already talked about, the natural minor scale, it does not have a flat 2. Like, go back to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A to B, that is a whole step. That's a major second. But for Phrygian, it has a minor second, or a flat 2. So back to the third scale degree, the E of C major scale. Of course, you have a E minor scale, E sus4. This is a E sus2, but you should think of it as a E Phrygian. It's just going to carry over and help you remember it better once you start discussing and learning all other things of music. It's all going to tie back together, and it's going to make a whole lot more sense. So your 1, flat 2, and your 5. Onto the fourth scale degree, which is my personal favorite mode or sounds of the major scale. You have your F major scale, your F major triad, built off the fourth scale degree. Then you have a Lydian. It's a sus4, so 1, 4, 5, but it is think of it as the Lydian triad, a Lydian triad, because instead of it sounding like 1, 4, 5, instead of it sounding like just a sus4 major triad, the fourth is actually raised a half scale degree. So 1, sharp 4, 5. You can hear that. That's a Lydian triad. We'll discuss the Lydian mode in a second, but that's always been described as otherworldly or heavenly, depending on the timbre of instrument that you're using. So your 1, sharp 4, 5. Especially if you're using in the upper register of, let's say, a piano, it's going to sound a whole lot more heavenly, otherworldly. So you can already sense the feel that chord has, but when you put it in the upper register of this piano, for example, that right there sounds very otherworldly, heavenly. Depending on the timbre, you can enhance that feeling. So of course you have sus4, F sus4, which is a Lydian sound, F sus2, and then your F major triad again. And on G, it is, I forgot to mention, the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord are the major chords. Those are the primary chords of the major scale. So your 1 chord, your 4 chord, your 5 chord. 1, 4, and 5, those are your major scales. Your 2 chord, your 3 chord, your 6 chord, those are your minor triads. Those are the minor sounds off of those scale degrees. So off the back to the 5th scale degree, you have the G major scale, the C major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. G, G, B, D. It's a G major triad. Off the G root, then you have the sus4 chord, G sus4, which is G, C, D, G, C, D, and then your sus2 chord, G, A, D, and then of course back to your G major triad. And then, like I said, the 6th scale degree, your 2, 3, and 6th scale degrees, they're going to be a minor chord built off of that. So you have, off the 6th scale degree, A, C, and E. That is a A minor triad. Of course, you have a sus4, A sus2, and then back to your A minor triad. Now B is slightly different. You're not going to have a major or a minor sound when it comes to the 7th scale degree. The 7th scale degree, the triad built off of that, is going to be a diminished triad. So instead of a major triad, 1 major third up, then a minor third up. It's not that. It's also not a minor third up and then a major third up. That's not minor either. It's not major or minor. It's going to be a diminished, which is the stacking of 2 minor thirds. So you have B, D, minor third, and then another minor third. It sounds very unstable because it's minor thirds, and it's built off the leading tone, which is going to be the most unstable, nearly, scale degree of the major scale, or really any scale. So you have B, D, F, B, D, F. That is your minor triad. For speaking of the modes, like we've already talked about Phrygian, we've talked about Lydian. The Locrian mode is another mode which we'll discuss here in a second. It has a flat 5 and a flat 2, which is the notes that we'll be using here. So if you go the 1, B, B, D, F, that's 1, flat 3, flat 5. That's why it's diminished. And you go again, do a sus4 chord, like we've been doing, sus4 chord, and then a sus2 chord, 1, 4, flat 5, or 1, flat 2, flat 5. That's going to be your Locrian sounds, especially off the diminished triad, because the Locrian mode is the 7th mode of the major scale. So those are the triads built off the different scale degrees of the major scale. Now we're going to quickly do the 7th chords. There's major 7ths, minor 7ths, and a half diminished 7th. So triad, 3-note chord. 7th chord is going to be your triad plus the 7th. So 1, 2, or 1, 3, 5, 7th. That's your C major 7th triad. Anyways, so the 7th chord is built off the different degrees of the major scale. For C major, I'm going to do this very quickly. It's going to be C major 7th, C major 7th sus4, C major 7th sus2. Off of D, it's going to be D minor 7th, D minor 7th sus4, and a D minor 7th sus2. Off of E, it's going to be E minor 7th, E minor 7th sus4, or whoops, that is a E minor 7th sus2, or it's like a Phrygian sound, Phrygian voicing. And for F, you have your F major 7th, F, A, C, E. You have your F Lydian sound. You have a F major 7th sharp 4 or F major 7th sharp 11. 4th and 11th is the same thing. 11th is just how it's commonly notated because it's an octave. It's basically the 4th plus an octave. So it's the same note, just an octave higher. So F major 7th. That's your F major 7th Lydian sound. F major 7th sharp 11. 1, sharp 4, 5, 7th, major 7th. And then your F major 7th sus2. And then off of G, it's your, this is neither a minor 7th or major 7th. This is a G dominant 7th. You'll always have a dominant 7th chord built off the 5th scale degree in any major scale. So instead of it being a G minor or G major, it is a G major triad with a flat 7. And the reason it sounds different is because of this interval right here. That is known as a tritone, which will be a completely different video when we really get into that. We'll discuss it a little bit in this video, but another video will be more suitable to discuss the tritone and its utility and what it's used for and why it's so important and helpful in music. So 5th scale degree, 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Of course, you have your like a dominant 7th sus4 and your dominant 7th sus2, but I wouldn't advise too often messing with the 3rd. Like when you have a suspended chord like a sus4, sus2, you substitute the 3rd. You don't always have to, but you substitute the 3rd for the 4th scale degree or the 2nd. And when you do that, you eliminate that tritone. And so like G, B, D, F. This note right here, B to F, that's a tritone. When you remove the B and use C or use A, so if you have a sus4 dominant 7th or a sus2 dominant 7th, you're no longer using the B in there, therefore you have no tritone, and therefore it sort of diminishes the effects of the dominant 7th chord because the tritone no longer exists. So I would not advise pulling that move too often. Off the 6th scale degree, you have your A minor 7th, you have your A minor 7th sus4, A minor 7th sus2. Off, and of course the 7th scale degree, you're going to have a B diminished 7th, B half diminished 7th. And what that means, there's half diminished 7ths and diminished 7ths. The triad we played was a diminished 7th because it was a stack of 2 minor 3rds, minor 3rd and minor 3rd, 2 minor 3rds. But for the 7th chord, you're going to have 4 notes, and therefore you have an option for it to be 2 minor 3rds and a major 3rd, or 3 minor 3rds stacked on each other. So for the major scale, naturally in its diatonic state, using just the notes of the major scale, you're going to have a half diminished, which is notated by a little circle with a slash through it, and you have a fully diminished 7th chord, which is notated by just a circle, no slash, just a circle, which means it is fully diminished. So a fully diminished 7th would be minor 3rd, minor 3rd, minor 3rd. But in this case, it's B to D, which is a minor 3rd, D to F, which is a minor 3rd, and F to A, which is a major 3rd. So that is a diminished 7th chord. is a half diminished 7th chord in the key of C major or any major scale, but for this case it is B half diminished 7th. I hope you learned something very valuable from this video. If you did learn something valuable from this video, please give the video a like and turn on your notifications, subscribe, and turn on the post bell notifications so you can get notifications when I upload more videos just like this. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.